What up, everyone? It's Thursday afternoon, a little late on the routine. It's currently 2:30. Usually I head to the gym at around like 12:30, but yeah, I got caught up with some things in the morning. I was watching the Trump cabinet meeting, and there's a lot of development happening with in regards to the markets and the tariff situation over the last week, or actually I want to say like the last few days since Monday. A lot of updates. So Trump yesterday tweeted out, funny thing, in the morning he tweeted out, it's a great time to buy the dip. Then I think like 3 or 4 hours later announces the 90-day pause on the cooperative countries that got a reciprocal tariff on Liberation Day last week. So those 70 whatever countries, whoever reached out, have a 90-day pause, and the tariffs are all lowered to 10%, a threshold there. So that's great news. I mean, we had the second largest green day ever in the markets. I'm talking about the S&P and the Nasdaq. So that was major. And yeah, so clearly markets reacting, clearly a lot of cash on the sidelines. And this just goes to show that it's self-inflicted. This whole thing can be reversed if he just calms the rhetoric and just talks deals. Not a lot of uncertainty, just gives clarity to the markets. So we reversed Tuesday after the Monday bottom, which I do think will hold. I think Monday was the bottom. It has every characteristic of a bottom. So we had the VIX spike crazy. We had capitulation, 3 gap downs in a row, which shows a lot of fear, a lot of panic selling. And I don't know, to me, from the I believe the August 5th low with the carry trade, it was similar to that. So we have an explosive down. Then we try to fill some gaps, fail at a few attempts, but then later on we get a lot of trapped sellers on the way down, and we do end up impulsing up. So just looking at prior lows, we do tend to struggle at the bottoms, just trapping a lot of buyers and sellers, and then we usually go up on even some bad news. So as you guys can see, on Tuesday when Trump announced the retaliatory tariffs on China, the market didn't make a new low. I know it was pretty ugly. I think we were down like 4% that day, but it did not make a new low, and it did hold firm for most of the day, giving a higher low. So that kind of gave the impression that the lows are probably in, because we're not going lower on bad news. So a lot of it's digested. Then on Wednesday, we had our record day on the announcement. Today, we gave back about 50% of that pump, which is totally normal. I expected it. We're not going to just rocket off that news. There's a lot of digestion that needs to be happening in the markets right now. And we did make a lot of... We did make up a lot of ground. We, I think, covered 2 gaps on the Nasdaq, 1 gap, and an island top on the S&P, which is good. I mean, I wasn't expecting an exact V-shaped recovery. I think it'll take a few weeks, but I do think we'll be back at all-time highs pretty quickly, the next couple of months, in my opinion. And you know, a lot of I watched Trump's interviews, or Trump talking, and his Secretary of Commerce Lutnick and the Secretary of Treasury Bessent. I watch a lot of these guys' interviews because obviously, like, I want to know what's happening with the markets, but they give a lot of insight on the way they're talking. So last few weeks, every single time a reporter would ask something about the tariffs, it would be like their tone would be pretty bad, and they would say some pretty bad things, like bearish things, right? Not giving a lot of clarity, and just like bashing the countries, just not things you want to hear. Nothing good. And as of late, I want to say since like Monday or the weekend, I don't remember, whatever, there's a change of tone that they're very open to making deals, and they're actually negotiating with every single country that reached out, Canada included, Mexico included. The only one that's giving a hard time is China, and which I'll get to in a sec. But they're actively saying that they're seeking deals. They reduced the tariffs, gave a 90-day pause. It's a shift in policy that clearly didn't work. So I believe it was Tuesday night. Yeah, Tuesday night. It was like midnight or 1 a.m. I was watching the bond market imploding. The bond market was going crazy. The 10-year was back to like 4.4, which we're at 3.8, like I believe on Friday. The whole narrative of Trump's trying to lower rates to refinance the debt, sure, it's a bright idea, but clearly didn't work. The 10-year went from, I believe, 4.5 in the last few weeks to 3.8, which is decent, but the way you got there, you tanked equities like 20% from the highs. It doesn't really make sense. You would think the 10-year would be at like 3%. And now we're back to around 4.5, which, so equities are down like, I think 15% from highs now, and the 10-year didn't budge. So clearly that didn't work. I don't know who's selling the US treasuries, which other country is doing that, but clearly that didn't work. And Trump said it yesterday when he was talking. He said that he was watching the treasury market, and that did influence him a little to make the announcement. So at least they're watching the markets. We know that for a fact. We know that there's a Trump put at 20% from the highs on the S&P. So that's good news, I guess, is that they do pay attention to the market. Instead, like the Joe Biden administration would, like Janet Yellen had no clue about anything. And I want to give a big shout out to Besson, because he flew down apparently to Florida this weekend to give a talk to Trump and advise him about what he should do moving forward, which is talk to countries. And they're already talking to Vietnam, Taiwan, and Japan pretty closely. And apparently there's a deal that's supposed to be announced sometime in the next few days, and there's a deal that's very close. So that's good news. Bessa and Lutnick, I think, are taking care of those talks, and Trump with the final decision. So everything's good on that front. And Trump actually put his ego aside and actually took the tips that Besson gave. So that's very good to see as well. And just removing the tariffs and the pressure relieves a lot, just global stress. Because if those tariffs stayed into effect for, I want to say, over a month, we're definitely headed to a global recession. So that's good news. Obviously, he just wants to trade. He just wants to negotiate fair trade, which, whatever that means. But he's planning to use that money for the tax cuts that he's been pushing, and I think we'll start pushing a lot. So he was talking about tariffs, like tweeting on Truth Social basically every day, but now he's probably going to pump the tax cuts, which he's been talking a lot about. And the House voted on the bill today. I think it passed, and I think there's some final changes that need to be made, but they're raising the debt ceiling as well next week. So a lot of good news on that front. Now, the final thing is China. So the latest tariffs on China are 145%, and then from China's side, I believe it's 84%. So, I mean, that's pretty bad. That can't stay long for a while, because that'll destroy a lot of small businesses, and just that's just not good to have that much percent of tariffs on China. It can't stay for that long. So I do believe the Chinese will probably budge in the coming, I want to say 4 or 5 days, hopefully. And yeah, I think we'll be okay on that front. So the market, in my opinion, should be back to 570 on SPY. I want to say maybe by Monday, assuming no more escalation anywhere. So 570, the reason why I'm saying that is because on Liberation Day, once he announced the 10% before he brought out that whole board, the market was at 570 on SPY. So that's probably the target for now. And we're just gonna have to wait for deals to come in. We're gonna have to wait for the tax cuts, what happens with that, the budget resolution there. And then we're gonna have to see what happens with China. So if China reaches out and there's positive talks on a deal pulling through soon, I think the markets will likely be back, I want to say over 5,900 on SPX. So 590 on SPY, I think we'll be basically back to all-time highs like relatively quickly. And Bitcoin will likely lead the way, as it has been digesting this whole market tank. Like the Nasdaq was basically down, I think 28% at its peak, the S&P 21%, and then Bitcoin, I think it was like 33%. So as a high beta asset, being basically one-to-one with the Nasdaq is very positive for Bitcoin. I think it has a lot of bullish momentum into later this year. Still waiting on alt season, hopefully that happens. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of good things on the market. Obviously today is a pretty bad day. We almost had a limit down, but I was expecting at least 50% of that move to get retraced today. Depending on the way we close, we probably have a good day tomorrow, and then next week should be pretty good. Hopefully we start seeing some deals come in. CPI was good today, so that's good on the Fed front. That means rate cuts are definitely happening, at least in June, if not May. I think there's a lot of liquidity missing in the market. So I believe in the next FOMC meeting in 4 weeks or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we should be seeing the complete end of QT, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully some QE, like some small QE, but I doubt that happens now. I think there needs to be a bigger crisis, especially if the market starts rebounding into later this month. But yeah, we're missing a lot of liquidity, and there's a lot of money on the sidelines. I think the move back up to all-time highs would be pretty explosive. And I mean, this whole Q1 and the start of Q2 has been pretty terrible for the market. So there's a lot of chasing that's probably going to happen for returns on funds. And I think we're going to have a good run here into the summer. So fingers crossed that no more bad news, hopefully. And China and US can de-escalate everything. But yeah, those are my market updates. That's what I'm seeing. I do think the Monday bottom holds. I think that was it. We retested 2021 all-time highs. Fingers crossed that holds, because if that breaks, we're headed to depression. Probably, I'm talking like 3,500 on S&P, which is like what, 45% from the highs. It'd be pretty crazy. So I think things look good. I did put some money into the market this week. It's a no-brainer, 20% off highs. I do think it's a good place to start bidding. I don't think you should be afraid of this. If you look at 2018, it did get resolved rather quickly. The market tanked for like 2 months in January and February of 2018, then rebounded back to highs, I believe, in May. So that's pretty quick, and then it tanked again at the end of the year. But that's besides the point. It can recover pretty fast, and Trump has been tweeting about the market reactions in the last 2 days, so I think he does want it back up now. He got the damage he wanted to do. He saw the bond market didn't like that, so I think he's shifting his rhetoric. We'll see what happens. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe. It does help the channel out a lot. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Be happy to answer any question, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.